Hi everybody, welcome to Painting for Pleasure. I'm your host, Tony Visco. Excuse me. Here's what we're gonna end up doing today. I took this shot down in Chatham. It's basically at the Chatham Light. And let's see if we can get a close-up of this so that you can see what's going on. So we're going to use this as our reference. This is the color shot. Everybody's going to get a black and white shot. But just to show you what it is, we've got sky, got a little bit of water, a spit out here of sand. And we have this sort of beautiful few beach roses that are on the sand dunes, and all of the dune grass. So that's where we're going to go. Okay? So let's go pan out. Whoops, we're panning in. Let's go pan back out to our full sheet. And we're going to start to draw this in. So here's what we're going to do. I've got my drawing here, or my photograph here, that my reference material. And what I'm doing is I'm taking a look at this, and I'm going to compose it. Now, I'm going to compose it a little bit differently. But I do want to come down here pretty much the same way that I'm looking at. And I've got this sort of scrub pine that's up here in this area. I've got a building, I've got a home that's in here as well. So we're going to end up coming over here, and I'm going to put that house in, because I think we need something in there that's going to be a little bit interesting. Maybe a chimney on that house that's over there. And I think, if I remember correctly, there's probably a building or a home or something behind here. So let's just make this one sort of building here. That's coming out. This is coming out, hidden behind the trees and the brush. And we'll come down here, and now we've got this big bush that's next to it. But I think what I'm going to do is I want to leave some space here, and we're just basically do another sort of scrub pine coming down this way here. So we'll make this fairly dominant. All right, and that'll be our focal point. And I don't know, we'll put something out here. I'm not too sure what. So sky above here, and I may make the sky a little bit more interesting. We have this lovely spit of land that's going to help us to differentiate between the water and the foreground. Little bit of land mass out here. Not sure what it is, but we'll put that in. That's going to go right across. And we'll come down a bit to this area, and we're going to end up putting in this is going to be water, the bay, I suppose. And we're going to end up putting in our marsh grass this side, down in this area here. Bring this right across here, so that's about right. Okay, and this is going to be all marsh grass in here. And I want to make sure that we get that marsh grass right. So we have some short, grassy sort of feeling over here, and those are going to be vertically painted. You know, we're going to end up probably doing something like this to give me that feel, because this is all sort of all marsh grass, and I want to get. I'm not going to do a lot of this, but what I am going to do is I want to get that feeling. So I will do some, and it's all going to be sort of vertical here as we come down. And what I'm going to do here is, this is going to be all dark area in here, dark area in here. The house is going to stand out. And we come down here. Now, we have this sort of grassy, I don't know, let's call it bush, rough bush, scrub pine and rose bushes that are sort of in this area here, coming down. Some dune grass in here. We'll make this, I'm going to make this a little bit wider coming up here. This whole thing here is going to be grass, dune grass, and beach roses that are going to come over here. And some dune grass in here. We'll bring this down. Little lighter grass. It's all coming down the hill, by the way. Okay. And if we take a look at this, about a third of the way over here, we have, do I want it there? I think I want it back here a little bit more. So we got this sort of, again, some darker areas that are beach roses, and we do have some. We are going to put some beach roses in here. All right, little beach roses, and the way I'm going to handle that is I'm going to probably put all of these little beach roses in first. I'm not sure yet. Got to figure that out. But we have, this whole area is just loaded with beach roses out here. And the farther back you go, the smaller they're going to be. All right, so we got that sort of dune grass coming down. Now what I don't want is, I don't want this, see this, I don't want that straight. I don't want a grass with ending both here and here. I'm going to end it out a little bit more in here. And again, I'll just sort of page this in dark, run some little, again, beach roses in this area here, and we're going to end up doing some taller dune grass in here, and here, coming down. So let's go back out to this way here. How much do I really want to put in for dune grass? And how much do I want to really put in for beach roses? Maybe I'm going to make a clump of roses here and here and leave that center one out. All right. So we'll have our dune grass coming up in this area, right here. Okay, so what I'm also doing here is I'm putting in some seagulls in this area here. We'll put one up here. One coming this way. Perhaps maybe a pole. Now these are not actually in this image, but I'm adding them as added value. Hopefully we'll be able to do something here. But we got, put that in there, like a little pier pole or something. Maybe there's something over here, that a boat way out in this area. You know, when the tide's high, maybe it comes in, and maybe there's something that's wrapped over there. Who knows? What else can we put in there that's interesting? So maybe a couple of people up here. I don't know. Let's see. We'll put them in now. I might not keep them in there, but And to balance this off, let me just also do maybe something like this. Again, with a, just gives it a little bit more interest. This. Yeah, that's about it. I'm not even, well, we may put a, I gotta have a seagull in here. Walking on the land. That's all right. Let's see where that brings us. Okay, so that's going to be our painting. We'll just sort of do some stuff over here. Maybe put a couple little tiny figures out here. That's way out there, and then that's it. So let me get my paints ready. Let me get my water ready, and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm about ready. I'm going to tape this now. We're going to wet the paper, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to tape the top and the bottom of this. Either that or I'm going to have to wet both sides, and I think probably best if I maybe just tape the top and the bottom. So let's see where we're at here. Well, let me tape the bottom first. I got a little bit of water on the board here, so let's just get that dried up. That way I can tape it. Move it up into the camera area. I think we should be good there, something like that. Tape it. And we'll get started. So let's do a couple of things here. As we know, we're going to be painting watercolor. Watercolor is going to be painted light to dark. I don't want to put any darks in until later, at least give myself a feeling of what I want to do. These guys here are going to be probably a little bit too big. I'm going to probably have to make them a little smaller because I want to get some reasonably good distance out of there. So let's come in here, and what I'll do is start with my wide brush. There's one here. I'm going to put in a big swath of, I'm going to start with water. Wet the top. I'm going to wet the sky. And we're going to wet it. We're going to sort of wet around the house that's up there. Okay, we'll just give this something. And we can come right down into this area. We're not too concerned about what's going to happen down here. And the reason for that is because I'm going to end up painting, we're going to paint the sky, and we're going to add that blue's going to come right down into the dune grass anyway, because we're going to paint the dune grass light white, yellow, greenish sort of colors and so forth. So what I'm just basically doing really is just wetting the sky right now, and I'm going to come around. What I'm really concerned with is the leaving the white of the paper where the seagulls are going to be. So we're just sort of painting around the seagulls. I'll paint around that one. The other one I'm not too concerned about. Same thing with the water. I'm going to leave a little bit of white area for the land. and then come around the seagull. Okay, so we're wetting sort of everything here. I'm not even worried about the post. That's not going to be an issue. I just want to make sure that I've got all of this guy, and we'll put the people in later. I'll just maybe actually make them even smaller. All right. So again, wetting around the whole thing. Now what I want to do is I want to take a swath of nice blue, maybe some cerulean blue, cobalt blue. Let's work with cobalt blue here. A lot of water. To give you an example, all right, a lot of water. I don't want to get into my cobalt because I got too much green in my cobalt right now. I'm sorry, my cerulean blue. I've got too much green in there, so I'm going to make the sky. I'm going to start to make the sky with my cobalt blue. All right, so you see how wet that is? Wet into wet, okay? So that's what's going to end up happening, is we're going to end up getting all of this nice and wet. It'll be lighter, and I'll get a little bit on the cobalt side a little bit on the cerulean side, and as we come down closer to the water. So let's get some nice this blue. Now this is wet into wet, so this is going to just go. I'm not going to be able to control any of this because again, wet brush, wet pigment, wet water. What ends up happening here is that it's just going to sort of find its own path. Now I do want to create this, make this a little bit lighter in the background. All right, so I'm going to go toward the, by background I'm talking about it's going to be a little bit lighter down here. And I'm going to leave some of the stuff around the building. I'm going to leave some of it white. I'm actually coming down here into the landmass too. All right, I want to leave some of it white. A little bit of light around here where my birds are, but I'm not gonna, I'm gonna leave a little bit of light in this area too. All right, so I'm gonna let that softly come in. Now, my sky is gonna be reflected into the water, right? The water is gonna reflect a lot of the sky, I suppose, is the way we need to put that. And I'm going to do some of that right now. What I want to do is create a little bit more of a little bit darker up there. So I'm adding just a touch of my opera rose to this to get it a little bit on the darker, grayer side, I guess. A little bit more opera rose in here. I don't want it too purple. That's not where we want to really go with this. We want to get the reflection of that water. And again, working my cobalt blue, cerulean blue, around my bird. That land is just a bit okay. Okay, so we're going to start to get some of that in there. That's going to soften up. Now this is all going to be, all of this here, I'm not even worried about that. This is all going to be grass. Grass in that it's going to be dune grass, marsh grass. Marsh grass, all right. So I'm not concerned too much about it. I can get that all of this blue stuff in here. Leave some white areas because I do have to put those beach roses in. So we're coming down with something like that. I do want to put in a little bit more light clouds in the sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tissue and just sort of come in here and just blot it a little bit. At that gateway, we're going to give me a sweep for the sky. So you notice what happens here is that it's, and we're going to end up putting some darks in here anyway. So that gives me something that's interesting that's happening up here. This movement is very interesting to me. Okay. What are we doing now? Well, we're going to add a little bit of new gamboge to this. I'm going to start to come down here. I want to get the background in a little bit more of a greenish tint. So what I just did is took my new gamboge, just came in here and I'm just adding new gamboge to this mixture. And that new gamboge, which is a yellow, warm yellow, along with that is going to give me the green that I need to start casting my light and dark areas here. All right, now this is again wet into wet, wet into wet. All right, we're going to take and we're going to end up pulling some of this out of here. But generally speaking, what I'm looking to do is to get my areas where it's going to be scrub pine and beach roses, and sort of all of that kind of cool stuff. Some of this is going to be darker out here. In that area. Now, I'm not going to put the real darks in yet. That's not where I'm going with this thing. But I'm just starting to set up my values. My beach roses in there. Now, I drew this all in, but now I'm going to be. What am I going to do? I'm just doing this sort of interesting and very light. Same way with over in this area here. If I'm going to put in my beach roses, again, I need that to be. I need a lot of stuff going on so that I'm seeing through it to the dunes behind it. So I'm scrubbing in, or let's say, taking my color and scruffling it. I'm just moving my brush like this to create some of that. So what I'm really doing, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pick up some yellow ochre. Here's my yellow ochre. And I'm going to add my cobalt blue to my yellow ochre. So I'm going to start to get a little bit more of this olive green or darker and more intense look to some of this. And again, okay, so what I'm really doing is just putting in some small stuff here. Now this is all sort of buckling and drying out a little bit as I do this. And we're going to come in here and we're going to just start to slowly create these this dune grass patch by coming in here with a little bit darker stuff. In this area here, I'm going to take the point of this. Now this is still wet pigment, but it's getting into a damper surface right now. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm taking the same thing that I just put down, this here, and this is dried. I let this dry for a bit, so it's now dried, damp to dry, and I'm just coming in here and I'm just going to add a little bit of value, and I'm going to add the green value, and then I'm going to put in a little bit of warm color. So the value is going to be a little bit on the dark side, and then I'm going to put in a little bit of a warmer feel to it by adding a little bit of my burnt sienna in here a bit. So this is taking place here. You know, see what I'm doing? And I'm trying desperately to keep my head out of this. All right, so we're just adding a little bit of this and that, just to start to give myself a little bit of an area over here where I'm coming down. Now this is like, again, the combination of my opera, I'm sorry, a little bit of opera, but right now what I'm doing is I'm doing French ultramarine blue and yellow ochre, and let's get back into that little bit of opera stuff to get a little bit of a warmer feel. All right, and a little bit of dry area, a little bit of light area, a little bit of few little dots here and there, some darks, and what I'm just notice my brush is right up right here. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm putting in some dark spots or blotches over here. I'm going to come in here with let that dry. I'm going to come in here with some lighter areas and lighter values as well. Warmer too. Just happen to be putting in some of these right now while I have the pigment in my hand, my paint. Okay. Just I'm going to end up spattering in here too, by the way, because I want to create an illusion in here that's a little bit more interesting. So we'll do some spattering too, but just want to get a feel for where those darks are going to be. Now what I'm going to do now is come in and I'm going to actually, with this in place, I'm going to come in and put some warmer values in here, warmer colors in here, because I need to pick up some of the sand and the lightness of the grass, more of a warmer color in the grass area. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to change my water, get my clearer water and put in some warmer values in here. Okay, so now what I'm doing is, let me take my palette over here. We're now mixing up some sand color. Now what I want to do is this. I want this to be warm. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to do this nice and light and a lot of water in here. This is white, the white of the paper, but I want it slightly pink, if I can help it. You know, the idea behind this is that the sand generally is warm. And what I'm going to do is come up here with some warm sand, pinkish, all right, that's going to help to create the illusion I want. I'm going to come up here with doing the same thing. And the reason I'm doing this is because the grass, I'm going to be looking through the grass to what? To warm sand underneath. All right, so that's the idea behind this, is just to get a little bit of sandiness, sandy color in there. Okay. That'll give me a warmer feeling, and then I can put my grass on top. So this is the point where I have to look at this, and again, this is all wet right now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some softer material in here, softer strokes, if you will, with a smaller brush. I used my wide brush for this. If you remember, I used the cat's paw brush, which is a great brush, to put all of this stuff in up here, all right, and all of this stuff down here and everything that was coming down here. And that goes back to using a bigger brush. Use a big brush to do all of the basic shapes. You know, you don't want to come in here and do a lot of small brush work necessarily, because what ends up happening is when you start to do a lot of small brush work, you run the risk of, I mean, taking forever to try to do this, and it gets into too much detail. So let's see what we can do to get a little bit of shadow in here. My blue's going to be my shadow. Let's get to a smaller brush. And I'm going to basically use my faux Klonsky here to do some of that with. And it's not a rigger. It's got a nice point. It's basically their 1114 series. They make a nice brush. This is a Dynasty brush, by the way. I'm sorry, I say they make a nice brush. You don't know what I'm talking about, but this is the Dynasty Flow. It's a Klonsky brush, you know, Klonsky sable brush, but they make it out of it's a synthetic brush. It's a it's a faux brush. I keep saying synthetic inlet. It's not really nylon or anything. It's a manufactured brush that has hairs that are emulating a natural sable brush, real sable. So, but let's go back and start to take a look at what we want to do here in terms of some of the more interesting values. I'm going to use I'm going back to cerulean blue. And I'm going to use a little bit of cerulean blue. I'm mixing my greens again. So here's my cerulean blue. Right here. This is yellow ochre. Now yellow ochre is going to make it a little bit darker. If I end up using cerulean blue in my new gamboge, what's going to happen is it's going to make it a little bit lighter. You see the difference in that? All right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to alternate between that. And we're going to come in here, and I'm going to end up starting to scumble a little bit of the stuff in here. Why scumble? Scumble is going to end up again doing the same thing that I told you before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start seeing, it's not going to hit all spaces. It's going to hit the surface of some of this stuff and leave some of it so that I can see through it. Let me see if I can give you a better idea of this by using something that's a little bit darker. Now, by darker, I'm going to come in here, take the water out of my brush, use more pigment than water. Okay, so when I did that, what you can see here is a lot of areas are skipping. I'm not getting in. I'm not getting in here. I'm getting over there. So I'm going to leave some light area behind it. So we'll do this with my various yellows and greens. So cerulean blue, a little bit more pigment than water. Now, depending on the texture of your paper, there's a lot of interesting things that you can do here. But the idea behind here is to create the overall illusion of dune grass. Okay, that's the whole idea behind here. I don't want to paint dune grass everywhere. I want it to appear like there's dune grass everywhere, but I don't want to paint dune grass everywhere. That's what I'm talking about. And usually what ends up happening in something like this, usually, is that you get a nice variation in what's going on up here, okay? And I'm going to a pinker, you know that pinkish color that I talked about, watery color? I'm going to actually put some of that in here too. Variation. I'm varying my values. I'm making my colors. I'm varying the colors. So we're scumbling in some of this area back here. I'm doing it with this brush. I could do this with a bigger brush, by the way. No reason I can't. I mean, the idea behind here is just to get that feeling of a lot of variation, a variety of what's going on. Now, and I'm doing this I'm actually doing this before we actually go in and put in my darks, because I'm going to end up putting darks, much darker areas over here as well. But what I want to do right now is just to create this sort of illusion of warmth in some of these areas over here. This is all going to be marsh grass anyway. Now I'm going to make this, the grass out here, the marsh grass out here is going to be duller, less vibrant. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use my Naples yellow, which is a coolie yellow. Okay. How many different ways can we do this? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to apply paint. The major thing for me is to use the texture of the paper where I can to create the illusion that I want to create. All right. And basically that's all we're doing, is we're creating this illusion of marsh grass. Now I think we need to do something that's a little darker in some of these areas out here. And that's going to be with a little bit of, I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow ochre in here. Yellow ochre is okay. You know what else you can use is, if you don't have yellow ochre, you can use burnt raw sienna. Raw sienna and yellow ochre are pretty much the same. One tends to be a little bit flatter than the other. Some people like both. Some people like to use one over the other. Well, we're creating a sort of an interesting general overall feel back there. And again, I'm using a cool yellow, lemon yellow. More, it's interesting too. Lemon yellow is a little bit more opaque as well. Lemon yellow is a little bit more opaque. So it's going to give me more of a straw grass look, I guess, if that's the term, it's marsh grass. We will put in some interesting shapes that are more larger blades of grass here and there. But in general, what I'm really doing is just trying to get me a look that's suggestive. How's that word? There you go. Suggestive of grass. Okay. I mean, we'll do some of this kind of nice this stuff here to create some of that feeling. Once that dries out a little bit more, we're going to be doing it a little bit over here as well. You know, but the fact of the matter is that what I want to do is just make sure that I've got this scuffling that's taken place here with a nice variation, nice variety of stuff going on. Going to make this all darker too, by the way. All right. So we'll get a little bit more value by using, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pick up my cobalt blue. Burnt and yellow ochre. A little bit more value. Now this is watery. And what I'm basically doing right now is creating this these windswept looking trees. See that? Am I twisting that on you? No. Okay, so let me see if I can come in here and we got this windswept stuff that's going on here. Okay. We'll probably put in a few major darks actually at some point, but this is thin enough so that I can play around. Now this is called scrub pine. You know, the dunes have a lot of scrub pine going on in it, so you want to create that sort of illusion. I will do something in here too as well, by the way, just so that you're aware of it. But you got this slight cast of tone that's nice and warm. What it also does for me is it gives me the ability to go back in here and drop a few dots, help me create this illusion of beach roses that are going on. But I'll put those in. I'm going to actually put those in later on. Okay, let's go on to try to get I'm going to get a little bit heavier, a little bit deeper in terms of my values in here now. All right, because this stuff is all in the background. It's off in a distance. But the closer we come to the front of this, the more we're going to start to define some more of this grass. we're going to end up having a variety, a little bit more of a variation in terms of what's going on out here. And how about adding a little bit of more, let's get a little bit more darks going on over here too, all right? Again, this is all windswept. So by windswept, what I'm doing is I'm creating the feeling, the movement. Adding a little bit of warmth in terms of burnt sienna here and burnt sienna here and there. Okay. So this is the kind of thing that we're doing. We're going to just come in here and keep plugging away. All right, a little bit of. Now remember, my darks are what? More pigment than water, guys. Now remember, again, I'm going back and saying that I'm looking at an all green background here, but I'm putting in some warmth in terms of my my values and color, and I'm using some warm tones of burnt sienna in some of this area. Okay, because you want to get a variety of things happening here. It's boring when you see all this stuff the same value. And it's boring if you see all the stuff the same temperature. All right? If it's all cool, you need some warmth to kick it in. You know, you got to have some of that stuff in there. So, again, I'm putting in some of this. Now, here's what I'm going to do, too. I'm going to take a little bit more of my upper rose and add a touch of my cobalt blue, so I create more of a, well, here, let me show it to you. So I'm creating more of a purplish, light purplish color in here. So that's going to cool things down a bit in terms of some of this grassy stuff over here. And we're going to put some of those grassy patches and if I get a little bit more bluer, what's going to end up happening is we'll get a little bit more shadier. Okay, if see what I'm doing? We want to create some illusion, but we don't want it everywhere. Right? A little bit shadier. I'm also going to do that up here. This is my building. And I'm going to put a slight cast on my building there. A little bit of shadow there. On this building right here, we're going to just make this a little bit brighter. And I'm washing down. Yeah, put that value in under there, and I'm washing it down. A little bit of something over there. And let's come up here, and this is going to be my chimney. On top of that, and we're going to do a window. I'm putting in this now because I wanted you to get the feel of what's going on here. Okay. Careful about this here, this nice dark area, which is my window. A little bit of shadow. Maybe a white house, we don't know yet. Maybe a little bit bluer. There you go. We'll do that. Okay. Softly, softly come down. All right. Give me some indication of what's going on over back there. We got something that's going on. Building this up again. We have we're gonna end up one over here too. We got a weathered, beach eroded post here and there. Pilings, whatever you want to call them. Let's get a little bit more darker area back here. Where my beach is going to be, or where my water is going to be. And maybe we're going to end up with a little bit more of this marsh area right here. We're just going to come in and make this a little bit more interesting here. I'm going to go right over these guys. I'm going to erase them, I think. Okay. All right. Gives myself a little bit of my waterway out there. I might change that a bit. We'll see. Illusion. Remember, all I'm dealing with here is just creating an illusion. We're creating the illusion of dune grass or marsh grass. Illusion of marsh grass. Okay. All right, we're going to do it even darker, right? Now that this is dried a bit, let's do a little bit even, these have got to be even darker. I want to get that super dark up there. Combination of my burnt sienna, my French ultramarine blue, I want this real dark against this house. All right, again, scumbling some of this in here. Dark against it, right? We're going to go darks, a little bit darker. You know what we'll do too? I think I'll probably put a, let me do this. Some trees behind here. How about one back here too? We'll do one back there too. Make this a little bit bigger, broader. All right. Okay. Scrub pine. Looking good. Black tips of the bird's wings there. Seagull. Okay, all this stuff down here. I'm going to finish up this up over here first, and then we'll get into all of this. So let's see, we want a, let me give you a light roof. Okay, and we'll make, I think I'm going to make this building here. Not sure. Well, we'll just leave it alone for now. Okay, anyway, let's go back and see what we got to do, because I'm starting to play around with that a little bit too much detail, and I think I'm going to end up changing that whole color. Actually, I think I'm going to do that right now. Let's make it red. Okay, good. Strong enough? Bam. I'm looking right there, that's good. Same way with this here. Okay. Little thing, a little bit of what? A little bit of what? We'll just put a little bit of shadow in here. And we'll put a little bit of shadow. Here. And there. All right. Close enough. How about this? What we have here, all right, we'll do the same thing with this here. All right, my pole, my piling, if you will. So what else? We want to start to get in a little bit more stuff over here. So let's get this a little bit greener, a little bit softer. Okay. I'm going to come over here and just start to get a little bit more of this in here. A little bit of A little bit more yellow ochre. We're going to come down here, get a little bit more this darker green in here. All right, soften that up. Though we're gonna end up do something over there, and we're gonna end up putting in a little bit of a softer grass there. So we got my dune area going up here. Okay, a little bit more of this. Just a bit darker in here too. Okay. Looking good. Some thin lines now. Well, you know what we can do? Let's take out. Let's remove a few of these, make them sort of make it a little bit lighter. Well, I'm not removing them, am I? Well, that's because my brush has got paint in it. There you go. We're going to take out some, we're going to put some in. Adding some lights here and there. I'm going to put some more beach roses in here, and I want to get some light areas. I'm just tapping out a few by wetting and lifting. And then I'll spatter. This is letting it dry just enough so you can come in here and lift some of this out. You can't lift it out unless it's damp. Unless, you know, you can't do it. If it's soaking wet, it's just going to fill in. Okay, so see what I'm doing? Water, wet it, dry, you gotta wet it to lift it out. Wet it to lift it out. And if you vary the angles in this stuff, I think you're going to get a better look or a better feel. In some of the areas, I'm going to put in some darks. I'm going to spatter some darks. Wet. Wet. And we're creating some subtle changes in value. Simply taking the water and wetting it and rubbing it out. Okay, this should be nice. Now we should be able to do it over here too as well. Okay, and even out here. A little bit here and there. Wet. Okay. All right. I think what I'm going to do, let me see if I can do this. I want to make it bluer. Change the value of that, color of that actually. Okay. Now, I need to do a little bit of definition. A little more definition over here in terms of my water. Make that a little darker there. Let me help this bird along by just painting the darks around it. Okay. Let's go back and take a look at adding a few more of these rose bushes. And you know what we have to do here with the rose bushes? Once we get them, oh, let's get them a little darker first, and then we're going to have to lift out some light. Right. And now we're going to end up coming in here, and I'm going to create some darker values. My values are green. Well, my color, what I'm doing is I'm coming in here with a little bit more of a darker greenish color and let this come right down. I don't want all, again, the idea is not to have all of this stuff the same. So we need to get this more defined. The light's coming down here, so the bird's going to be here. We need the shadow side of that bird. And we need to, I need to put in a little bit of shadow there. Well, you know what? We'll make that whiter. Little shadow under here. And we'll make the beak. This yellow dark, a little bit more of a, I mean, it may not be okay. And darker under here. Well, we're going to end up, let's see, let's do it like this. Make that lighter and that darker. And I have to wait in here because I've got to put the beak in, and I can't do much with that right now. Right, and this is going to be wet, so let's just do that. We're going to start to get some more interesting values and shapes in here. This is just my way of putting all of this together. I had a sudden panic. I thought my camera might have been off. All right. So we're going to create this sort of interesting pattern that's going on here. Make this a little bit darker. Actually, I'm going to make that a lot darker. And a little bit warmer up there, too. Bluer. All right, we're going to do the same thing over here. Just going to darken up this bit more there. All right, so we're going to pole there, house up there. That dry it about right now. And again, we're going to just let's just put a little bit of shadow under there. Okay. Okay. I don't want the house to be. I want you to go there, but I don't want necessarily it to be the major thing that we're going to be dealing with here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is splatter a bit in here, and in order to do that, what I want to do is cover some of this area up. I don't want the splatter to go up here. And I don't want the splatter, I'm taking this old paint, this old stuff, to necessarily go up here as well either. The splatter in this area. You know, what I'm going to do to splatter is take my brush. Now this, I'm going to be doing this. See this little, see this? Little splatters, we're going to take a little bit of pigment. Let's do some yellow ochre. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Do some pigment. And I'm going to start to splatter a little bit here and there. But more importantly, let's get a little bit of red, because what I do want to do is to give you the feeling of some beach roses in here. Now, if I hold my brush back here, I'm going to get a broader pattern. If I hold my brush closer to here and hit it, I'm going to keep my pattern in the area that I want. For instance, if I just want beach red roses right in here, it's not going to go all the way over here. If I want them here, I can do that. So the closer you hold your hand to the brush, the actual hairs of the brush around here at the ferrule, you can control the amount of spatter and where that spatter is going to go. So if I want a broader base spatter, let's get some darks. We'll make a green spatter as an example. Okay, if I'm back here, see what I'm talking about? And I don't want to necessarily do too much, but so that's enough. It's enough spatter there, and maybe a little bit of spatter right in here. I'm going to take some of this, soften it up a little bit. Okay, good enough. And so that keeps me out of, that keeps my spatter away from my sky area. This should be dry enough for me to give this more definition here. My bird. All right. Still a little bit of wet there. And do that there. A little bit of value in here, and this is a little bit of shadow in here. I want some thin lines too in here. In order to make this grass effective, it has to be sort of, I think it should be thin. And it's dune grass. They need some shadow. Actually, you know what? In the marsh area, let's get some shadow. Put a little shadow there. Coming across here. Let's do something right here with a little bit of shadow. Make this a little bit darker. Let's go back out here. and do something out here as well. Okay. I'm gonna end up bringing this in. Okay. Nice thin feeling of dune grass, marsh grass. Add a little bit of something to it. All right, I think we're close. We're close. Little tiny things that have to be done. Again, make that dry brush effect just a little bit stronger. Maybe there's a, oop, too heavy. All right. Is this dry enough for me to put a beak in? Hopefully it is on that bird. And we want to put some legs in too, don't we? Mm-hmm. We'll get it. A little thin line. I can use my rigger to do that with, actually. And let me just also do this over here. If this bird is going to be here, I don't want that as light. I want that to be darker around here, so we're going to end up making that bird a little bit more interesting by making the grass a little bit darker right here. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry a bit more. Have to. Because I need to get that shadow in here. Let it dry. It's too dry. It's too wet right now. So we'll just play around here and just get Get a little bit more of that weedy look. Wheaty. Pretty much done, guys. All I'm doing is I'm playing now. Large strokes. A little bit stronger values in here. Okay, so we got our dune grass. There's the footsteps. Okay. So other than I'm gonna let that dry, finish it up. A little bit of a painting, but for all intents and purposes, this painting is pretty much done. And I want to thank you guys. Really thank you for being with me. Add a little bit of greenery on the top of these trees over here. All right. Some leaves on the top of those. Thinner lines here. This is the little tiny stuff that I sort of go through just to finish up my piece. Little things like that. Let this dry, I'll erase the lines and we should be golden. So thank you for being with me. I'm your host, Tony Visco. This is Painting for Pleasure, and see you the next time.